BabbleOnGames. This is the Babblecast. We are and will babble on. This week, we have a whole list of things we're going to be talking about. We've got the Nintendo a court case against a ROMs website. We've got the 2K leak and the cross-gen with Sony. And I will be talking about a particular Nintendo game that had a survey sent out about it, and Wolf, joining the first edition of BabbleOnGames, will be, I think, explaining Ark to us, because I don't think anybody else here has played it, but we'll find out. So let's just jump into it.
Yes.
That was by Philip DeFranco right there. First up, let's see. Does anybody want to volunteer to go first?
Yeah, I can't if Johnny's got my my sweet little graphic.
Oh god, it's like school all over again. We're being
It's just like, it's not like school all over again. Listen, you weren't here.
No wait for hands. Just pick one.
You weren't here last week when I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna be a teacher, so PowerPoint slides. You're gonna learn to love them."
Oh, I did see that. I was in chat for that.
Yeah. So
that exact moment.
if Johnny will pull up the presentations, image.
Of what? You never say me nothing.
Dude,
Yeah, he did.
it's in the show prep.
Oh,
So we'll go ahead and
All right.
Yeah.
Well, since Pat seems to have performance issues, I will. I'll step up to the plate on this one for a minute.
I'm the one with the issues.
oh, fudge me. Okay.
yeah, Chris. We'll let Chris go first while Johnny gets set up.
All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So, PlayStation this week announced that they're going to spend about the next 3 years developing software for the PS4 and PS5 simultaneously and making it cross-platform and cross-compatible in that fashion. Now, this, I can't say was an entirely surprising bit of news to come out, especially after them kind of taking that first step with the Final Fantasy VII Remake, even including cross-generation compatibility, where if you'd bought it on the 4, you would not only get it on the 5, you would get the extra content that comes with Integrate. But the interesting part of that was when they announced that it was going to be predicted to go across the next 3 years. So, as soon as the boys will calm down. Anyway, so it's supposed to last for the next about 3 years, and that has some interesting ramifications, including limiting the scope of a lot of the PS5 games that are going to be coming out for the next couple of years. So we're looking at basically the longer hallways, the long, notoriously Mass Effect elevators, and things like that to cover up actual loading screens between the PS4 and the PS5 for a little while. You won't have to deal with it so much in the PS5, but it will exist there just to have that cross-compatibility between the 4 and the 5. And I'm so sorry.
Just mute it, man. Just mute it.
Yeah, go ahead and go for the mute. I've got some things to say about it. So I don't know. I saw, as y'all know, I'm on the Twitter sphere, and I saw a good chunk of people that were upset, I guess is the right word for it, that some of these games that are coming down the pipeline are going to not only be available for the PS5 but also for the PS4. They're upset that is not that they are not PS5 exclusives. I, for one, I don't care. I really don't. Look, the PS4 has a large user base, and there are a lot of people who have not been able to get a PS5 yet. So, so what? I mean, whether or not the PS4s are going to be able to handle it, that's another question. Personally, I don't think it'll be too big of an issue. I really don't get, I don't know. It's not a big deal to me. I do not care. I know some people look at it like, well, there's very little reason to buy a PS5 right now. Yeah, I mean, the flip side of that is there's very little. I mean, if you're getting into console war conversation, there's very little reason to buy an Xbox right now.
Nope.
Either console hasn't provided a concrete reason to purchase it other than it's the new shiny thing. Now, my reason is I wanted it, so I got a PS5. Again, I just I don't know. I think the argument I cited was uh, Zelda, Breath of the Wild. It sold, I think it was around like 4 million copies on the Wii U, and it sold around like 20 million copies on the Switch. So who cares? Like, really? Like, we're going to get the next gen stuff. Just it's coming. I don't know. That's where I stand on it. Anybody else?
Well, as long as people can't find these things in stores, like myself, I'm gonna be okay with the fact that they're gonna be still. Listen, I want Horizon Zero Dawn or Horizon Forbidden West so bad.
I know.
Like, it's the only PlayStation exclusive coming out anytime soon where I'm super stoked for it. And I didn't even know it was coming to PS4 until they did the trailer for it, and I was like, oh, now I don't have to worry about a PS5 for years. Like, as long as I
Right.
can hold out on anything else, that one game that I absolutely had to have is going to be available to me even on PS4. And
Right.
now, I'm not gonna lie, Mass Effect Legendary Edition on Xbox Series X is 4K at 60 frames. I'd love to play that, but I got a One X, so this is
Right.
this is to be expected though. Consoles are not going to abandon their player base, the install base of what's PS4 up to? It's over 100 million, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty high up there somewhere.
So you're not going to be like,
Well,
I'm not gonna make games for you guys, you scrubs. Go get a PS5. Oh wait, you can't find one. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, this topic in particular goes back to last week's show where we were looking at chip shortages for everything, and I don't think it's just a good business decision to have this cross-generation compatibility, but it's just the right move, even if you're looking at it strictly from a PR standpoint. I mean, it's been kind of an unspoken rule for a while that there's been some cross-generation uh, content between different consoles and the same games and series. But this year we actually have it with the sort of formalized, we're going to have this compatibility across the two generations even when you buy an iteration on the previous console. That's not entirely new, but fairly new to be a standard. And having that option on the table, I think, uh, is a very good move for them to kind of separate themselves and make it clear that they're not just abandoning the folks who can't buy a PS5 just yet because of all these chip shortages and everything that we've been dealing with. Nobody can find a PS5, like you said.
Wolf, you want to weigh in?
What's up? Yeah, I mean, the only drawback I could see to that is like if you look at the Destiny 2, I believe it was, they supported I think PlayStation 4. Was it?
It might have been
No.
it might have been Destiny 1 that was the last. You're talking
Yeah,
about
it
the
was-
last gen?
Yeah, it was Destiny
Yeah.
1 that was holding back back when it came to the PS4 and like Xbox One era. It was the PS3 and 360 versions holding down Destiny 1. So that would be my only concern, and the same thing with like, Halo with the Xbox One, the Series X, and the PC version for Infinite later this year. Those games, like, when they have to, I guess you could say, kind of like dumb down, hold things back for the older consoles that are weaker. And I think Cyberpunk even had this issue. It
It did.
affects the current system and like PC or whatever, like whatever platforms you're on. It affects everything worse on the newer stuff than it does on the older stuff because the older stuff is just unplayable, and then people are angry. And then the newer stuff, it makes things glitchy, buggy, other things like that. So it could be a negative thing, but like you guys are saying, without being able to get a PS5, how can they expect you to buy all these new games? Like, you
Right.
can't. What are you gonna do? Just buy it and just watch it spin on a desk or something like that? Like, you can't play the thing. You're just gonna
These
have
are
a worthless disc.
Exactly.
these are all decisions that were made years ago anyway. Like, when these games started getting created, they knew that they were going to go cross gen. They just did. You don't start production on a game and then, unless you're shifting gears, I know Breath of the Wild is a really good example of one that it was going to be Wii U, and then they just basically, it wasn't a port, but it was basically made to work on both. But other than that, like you're always building for the base console at this point in the generation, and then if you get it on the newer one, that's just a bonus.
Right.
Unless you're exclusively going for the new one, or you get a Cyberpunk thing where it doesn't run on PS4 and it doesn't run on the old Xbox.
Cyberpunk was an interesting scenario, though. I mean, how long had we been following Cyberpunk specifically, Pat? Like
Years.
2014, 2015?
Ever since that super awesome trailer came out, that
Yeah.
reveal trailer, like that might have been like 2014.
E3 way back when.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was an awesome trailer, but that you've got people are just angry that they can't justify their own purchases. Like I think that's what it is.
Right. And I can't entirely blame them. Like, you buy the new shiny thing expecting to get new shiny stuff, but we're facing a situation where, as is already kind of tradition with new consoles, nobody can get it, but it's magnified right now. I mean, normally by the next, spring-ish, you have a reasonable availability of these things, and we just don't now.
These
it
people
makes
should just
perfect
talk.
sense.
They should just talk to Switch owners who have been complaining about Wii U ports since the damn thing came out.
What, you don't like the Wind Waker HD 2D 64-bit 30 FPS 60 FPS remaster?
Y'all say that, but I'm gonna buy it. So,
I'm gonna pass on that one.
Johnny, I've got another piece to say to this, but I wanted to give you an opportunity. Do you have anything here for or opinion on this?
Honestly, I agree with everything that David was talking about because I just remember those days where the PlayStation owners were reigned supreme when it came to like certain content for a while until they just like we need to put a stop to it because it's basically putting us in like a bind that these people are getting exclusives and these people aren't, and like it was holding a lot of like capabilities back ever since like the last bit of the Destiny timeline one. And yeah, this same thing with the Halo. Yeah, it puts like a damper on just everything, and like I honestly I can't get behind it. Stupid. No, like even though I do have a PS5 and everything, it's just that I don't really like support the fact of doing all that. Yes.
I gotcha. And so the other piece that I wanted to point out was a lot. The other reason why people were upset is they felt that Sony was being misleading, because, as Pat said, they've known about this for a while, but even in some of their marketing, for example, Gran Turismo, it said, only on the PS5. And come to find out, the next, Gran Turismo and a couple other titles are also, they're going to be available on the PS4 as well. So some people felt that was misleading. And again, I just don't care. Like, I don't think that's, I don't know. Do you think that they're always telling you the truth? And are you really holding these companies to that? Like, that standard? Like, it just feels silly to me. Like, of course they're not going to tell you the truth. Like,
shitty multinational company is going to be shitty. Like it's just they're in it to make money, and it's completely irrational to think that they would put a Gran Turismo not on their biggest install base or a God of War. God of War is the one I heard a lot of flack about.
Oh
like,
yeah,
because and it makes and listen, it makes complete sense. Like that game looked amazing on PS4. Its sequel should look just on the PS5, but there's going to be maybe a dozen million out there in gamers' hands.
Right.
And
that's exactly the problem.
Yeah.
It's a super smart and super scummy business tactic. If you say all your games, like if you say the new God of War, the new Spider-Man 2, the new Gran Turismo, all this is going to be on PS4 and 5, while the 5's been out for like how many months now? Half a year, something like that?
Almost 9 months, I think.
You say all these games are going to be 4 and 5 exclusive. What incentive is there to get a 5? This is their way of being like, all right, we've baited all the hardcore people in on the 5. Now we could go back and get the people that still have the 4, and they could still get their game too. And then it makes all the PS5 owners pissed. All the PS4 owners are happy. They don't care. They're like, oh, I don't need the system. Exactly. So it's like you just like you could sit there on your system. That's what people with 360 did for years. They were like, I don't need the new system. I'm just gonna stay right here and be happy because a lot of games were still coming out on it. As soon as the game stopped rolling out on the 360, that's when they got irritated and they're like, well, now I have to upgrade, but I don't wanna. It's a lot of those people that are happy with their one system and they don't want to leave it because they don't want to spend the money on the big new thing, which they're overpriced for what they are half the time anyways. When you could buy a PC for almost close to the price and it plays everything better. But it's just like as long as it doesn't hold back, like the old systems don't hold back the new systems, I think it's fine. But you're gonna get the people if you still got a standard PS4 at this point and you're gonna try and play the new God of War on it. Not gonna work. You probably need a pro at that point to play it properly.
True.
Yeah.
See,
I mean,
the P-
oh, okay, go on. Or maybe not.
the PS4 Pros, the Xbox One X or One S's, and basically the upgraded models of the current gen. That is where I start having an issue with these kinds of business practices because they've known that we were going to be looking to the next generation, and they released basically two different consoles at once.
I think your dogs agree. I think they agree.
They do. They do.
I think for their sake, we should move on. They just sound really upset. So, Johnny, do you have that teacher graphic for our
Yes,
teacher,
I do.
Beauteous Max?
Yeah, I have it because the thing is, for some reason, when it got transferred to PDF, for some reason, Streamlabs like, nah, no PDF, no. So I had to use window capture on the browser. So here it is.
We'll let you get that pulled up because Crisco apparently went to
He's struggling
consult-
right now.
console his dogs about Sony cross-gen games.
Yeah, one of them is for the PS4 games, one of them's not. They're going at it.
They're definitely having their own little sidebar on it at least. All right, so this week, news came out that Nintendo won their lawsuit against ROM Universe, the website that was offering subscriptions to access copyrighted ROMs. I got a little snippet of the first page of the lawsuit on this little slide. It was filed way back in 2019. The decision came out this week. Nintendo successfully argued that ROM Universe was doing wrong. I mean, they alleged both copyright and intellectual property infringement, and it's so funny because the guy didn't get a lawyer that owned the website. His name was Matthew Storman.
Stupid thumb face.
He didn't get his own attorney. Like at any point, Nintendo sues you and you go in without an attorney, it's game over. Nintendo alleged that they had basically taken their website, and put all these ROMs on it and was charging money. And Storman, by his own testimony, offered that he made like $30,000 or $35,000 off it. So Nintendo wanted $15 million in damages, which is a bunch of little components that add up to $15 million, but they got 2.1 instead. Poor Nintendo, right? They only got 2.1 million. This isn't their first lawsuit by any means or by any measure. So, but this is the first one that's gone to court this deep, and the guy just decided he wasn't going to get his own attorney. I don't know how you do that. It just seems like a bad idea. Just get a lawyer. Just get a lawyer, guys. If you need a lawyer, get a lawyer. When I closed on my house, I got a lawyer. It's just easier that way. Just get a lawyer. But I wanted to segue this into. I saw another piece. I forget, and I don't remember what the website was, but I saw a piece that they were talking about how it becomes an issue of video game preservation when Nintendo and other companies, it's not just Nintendo, but Nintendo's the biggest, biggest company that does this. But they're like the Disney of video games, where they just kind of vault everything out. The Switch has not gotten a proper, digital store for retro games, and this guy did wrong. This ROM Universe site did wrong by trying to charge for it. Right? Like that's a big no-no. That should have been obvious. If you're making money off of it, you're gonna get clipped, right? But what is the alternative when Earthbound, right? You want to play Earthbound, and the Wii U store or whatever store, the digital stores are closed, and you look at a physical copy of it, and it's what, like, I don't even want to look at how much it's worth now. Last I saw, it was like $300 for just the cart. So what are you supposed to do? I want to play Earthbound, but Nintendo won't let me buy it from them. Like, what are your guys' thoughts on that?
You cry.
I think it's a very real
Besides that.
problem. I mean, we've been addressing this sort of as gamers as a whole back since the days of Super Nintendo when Nintendo started to die and we couldn't play our old NES games. It's been an ongoing issue, and the further we advance from the days of the NES, the SNES, and it, any old console like that, the more of an issue it becomes. Nintendo managed to alleviate that a little bit with the Switch getting a bunch of free NES and now Super Nintendo games, as long as you have their online subscription. But it's not enough, and there's not enough availability out there, especially for something that they could literally just build their own store, which they've already done, and add all of this content that they already have to it.
They've
It
done
would
it
cost
twice.
them next to nothing, and rake in God only knows how much money. I mean, we all know the old line that the less available something is, the more prone people come to pirate it.
Yes. So I look. We all like to, well, not all, but there's a lot of people who like to look at Nintendo and think, "Oh, good guy, Nintendo, can't do wrong." But I mean, yeah, there's an issue here, right? Like you're forced to spend a lot of money out of pocket to get it secondhand. When if they were to provide it to you, at a reasonable price, you, I'd say most of us would be happy to pay it. I'd love to get a virtual console on the Switch. I would buy all these games because I actually didn't do that on the Wii U. So there's a lot of, I would say, new Nintendo players through the Switch that you would probably get quite a few people that would buy those old titles. And yeah, man, I mean, you got to be careful with those, Nintendo Ninja lawyers because you ain't a ninja. They are.
They're coming for you, man.
Yeah,
They're coming for you. They're coming for your life.
Ninja Lawyers sounds like a terrifying combination.
we discussed this before, and that's where we came up with, because it's basically what's going on, has been going on with anybody who wants to support their games on either a streaming platform or YouTube. It's just kind of like putting a hammer down. It's like, but we like your games. No, you can't show this.
Every gamer I know would pay like $15 a month or $20 a month for access to, and it doesn't have to be the whole library, but like on-demand access to a good chunk of the Nintendo and SNES lineup or GameCube. Like, they would make so much. You think Game Pass makes a lot of money? Like, no. This Nintendo service,
Yeah.
if you could charge $20 a month, and you'd get just tons of people showing up because it's way easier than pirating, especially if you put it on Switch. It's on my TV. It's super convenient. Like, people have shown that if you make it convenient for them, they will pay instead of pirate. That's what the movie industry did. It's what the music industry did. It's time for the video game industry to do the same.
Yes, and that's exactly what I was getting at earlier. You make it unavailable through any other methods, of course people are going to start pirating. They want to play these games. But all you got to do is put it out there, throw $5-10 price tag on it, and just collect free money. It shouldn't be that hard for Nintendo, but we all know they have a long and storied history of questionable business decisions.
It's the problem of Nintendo just being very old school in a bad way. Like, you look at their Switch Online for a lot of their games too, and it's really dated. Like, you can't, like, Smash Bros is like next to impossible sometimes to play online because of how bad it is. And it's the fact that, like, they could, like, I mean, how hard would it be, especially with like some 3DS games? Just be like, here you go. Here's a virtual console port of this mobile game on your mobile system. Like the only hard part would be the double screen, trying to work that in on one screen. But like you look at all these old games like Pokemon, like Heart Gold Soul Silver is like $90 at GameStop.
or
Who would
more.
want who would want to play who would want to pay that when they originally were like $30? And Nintendo's not getting in like all that money, especially when it comes to like mom and pop shop places that sell them or like eBay that sells them. But then they get mad when people, ROM hack them, especially when they ROM hack them for free when you're not making money off it. It's like, well, nobody's making money, so why are you mad? Like you weren't gonna make money off it when you don't even sell it in circulation anymore because it's old, it's outdated. But people still want to play that, but you're not just giving the virtual console for it because for some reason they just said no with the Switch. Like they gave you virtual console for the two oldest systems in their catalog, but nothing newer that people want to play still that they missed out on because the Wii U was overshadowed and some people just never bought the 3DS or the DS for some reason.
I mean,
So-
I didn't originally. Sorry, John.
No, that's cool. So two things. I mean, there's one game I can think of that would be like a slam dunk if they, put minimal effort into it and dropped it on the the e-store, the eShop. Kid Icarus, I think, would be. You have the controls for it now. I think it would be much more comfortable to play on the Switch. And then I completely forgot the other thing I was going to say. Oh, I got it now. So one of the some of the speculations out there is that the Switch Pro will be what'll get coupled along with that is like GameCube games, being able to play GameCube games. And I was wondering if you guys thought that a Pro would come with an upgrade in older games available through their eShop.
No.
It's
No.
It's through the eShop and not
I
like
mean,
a random.
if
disc
you want to,
drive.
Say again.
Is it eShop or is it through like how the Switch or the Wii used to do it, where they could play the disc? It's like an eShop upgrade for GameCube games.
Yeah, like how they have the NES app. They have
Yeah.
it would be like a GameCube app, and it's all digital. Like
No.
Yeah, I don't think so. That just seems like a weird. If it was like Switch Pro exclusive, like that just seems like a weird choice.
yeah.
let's see, where are we? Johnny,
Yo,
and then it'll be Wolf teaching us
Yeah.
about Ark. Johnny, what do you got for us?
I actually have news about another Borderlands game being talked about. So give me a second to pull up the actual graphic.
Borderlands, you say?
Yes. So from what I was forwarded, it says the Borderlands spin-off is Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, which is a game that European gaming news site GameReactor.eu teased earlier this spring. And GameBox boss Randy Pitchford essentially confirms its existence as part of his efforts to respond to rumors. Gearbox is developing Wonderlands, which will still focus on Borderlands style class-based shooting action. The Far Access game is a turn-based strategy game, but with marble. No, never mind. It just had like some other stuff in there. My bad.
You talking? Are you referring to the leak? And
no, because like the way it was
You
shaped.
went too far.
Yeah, I read too far, so I didn't. I assumed the whole thing was that, but I guess not. But anyway, that little tidbit. I didn't know. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm all
Man,
jumbled up
all you
today.
gotta
I'm
do,
sorry.
bro. All you gotta do, bro, is read the article before we do this.
Ah,
Yeah, that does usually help.
Proceed.
But the reason why I picked up this was because I'm a huge Borderlands fan. I've played every single Borderlands game from the start, and I'm in love with it, and I'm also excited about this movie. Not excited about who's being cast because there's certain characters that don't need to be cast in that role, especially Roland. I'm gonna say this right now. He should not be Roland. Right? No.
Who shouldn't be rolling? Who shouldn't be rolling?
Kevin Hart should not be Roland. Kevin Hart should not be
What?
rolling.
No.
Crisco's just finding out. Yeah, it is.
Listen,
It's
that's the
for
first.
real.
That's the first
finding
time
out
of
that
it too.
the new Borderlands is a thing at all,
He's so
including
short.
a movie and everything else. But yeah, Kevin Hart is like all at 90 pounds soaking wet, and you want him to play the big super soldier Roland? Really?
Yeah.
He's just a little guy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
Like Jamie Foxx ain't even that big, and he could have eaten two of Kevin Hart.
That's funny. That's funny.
God,
That's a good one.
I'm just gonna say this right now before I continue. Terry Crews should have been rolling. I'm
Right?
gonna say that right now. But continue. But the thing is, like, I'm excited to hear about this because who else doesn't like more Borderlands? Like, for me, I enjoy it. I played 3 like crazy, still am because they have a new DLC, and I love Tiny Tina. Like, she is one of my favorite characters out of the series. Like, she is bonkers crazy, and I adore her. She's so awesome. And like seeing her adult version in the third game, I was just like, I went ballistic. It was like just her, Brick, and Mordecai, just those 3.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, like, I love it. But yeah, I'm excited, and I want
F's
to
in the
see
chat
more.
for Bloodwing.
But yeah, yeah.
Spoilers.
If you don't know by now, something's wrong with you. Because that
Saddest moments in gaming 2018.
I swear to when that happened, I wanted to freaking just explode. I'm like, why? Why would you do that to him? He was so beloved.
That's why it evoked an emotion.
Motion
See,
one.
that's the worst part though. Like, I couldn't have even told you Bloodwing's name in Borderlands 1, but like Borderlands 2, they made him a thing.
Yeah, because more of the story got fleshed out in 2. Because 1 was more like a placeholder because they're basically putting their toe in the water to see if it actually would be developed as a good game, and then the DLCs came out for 1 and just like boosted up the popularity. General Knox DLC for 1 was by far the best one for me because it was so awesome in getting into that vault and just like looking at all these different weapons in a limited time. It was awesome. And yeah, and then 2, yeah, the story just went like through the roof. Like, you actually fell in love with more characters than would have in 1.
Yeah.
Oh.
So.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bro. Yeah. Well said. New
Gotta
Tiny.
catch a ride.
Well, I mean,
Yes.
yeah, Scooter, Tiny Tina, God,
What?
what's her name? Ellie.
Ellie. Oh God, I love Ellie. I love Ellie so much.
Foxy.
Oh, Moxie is a gem.
Moxie is great. They elevated a lot of characters from, random no name great one-liners to incredibly well developed, lovable, hilarious characters, and they didn't even have to do that much writing for these people. Like, most of these folks that we just listed, you have what, a minute interaction with them at most throughout the game for the most part,
Yeah, pretty much.
and then you still remember everything they say. And it's just 2 did such a great job character and world building.
Oh yeah, because like the DLCs that they had for 2, the more of those characters actually fleshed out. And I'm gonna say this right now: Tales of the Borderlands. If you haven't played that, play it. It's so good, and it links the story so well. Because when it leads to Borderlands 3, like you basically fill in all of the holes that you couldn't figure out between that. Because it was like 1, 2, Tales of the Borderlands, pre-sequel, and I played all of them. So
Yeah,
I'm so
this
sorry.
this is definitely a Borderlands house. Actually, pretty sure I beat 1 and 2 with Chris.
I'm
And
certain you did.
I beat 2 and 3 with my wife, and she also loves Tiny Tina. And yeah, like when I told her she was getting her own game, like she was super duper excited about it. So it's look, it's a franchise that I don't think in the beginning they thought was gonna take off the way it did, but man, it's a addicting shooter leader. What can you say? It's a very fun franchise. I didn't hear a whole lot of Wolf throughout all this Borderlands talk. Did you have anything you'd like to add,
I-
or
I'm
should we?
not the biggest Borderlands fan, so I just wanted to sit quietly instead of like not really like I didn't want to bash something that I've hardly played. I only
Oh,
played Borderlands 1 and it was just at the end of the game when the game was being modded to hell on the consoles and everything like that, so you're getting OP loot drops. The only thing I remember fighting was I think a big purple crab DLC boss. I think it was like
That's
Crack.
That's
Cromer
Yeah,
Cromwell,
that.
right?
Yeah, that's all I fought. That's all my friends fought. Like ran through me on repeat. You know Zach. So Zach and his brother Tyler, they only took me through that. I never played the game, like the actual story, because they were already so far ahead by the time I got it. I had the Game of the Year edition with the DLC disc and everything. Gave it to a friend to borrow. His brother gave it to a friend to borrow. Never got it back. Never seen it. So Borderlands 1 always had a bad, like, kind of bad experience, bad taste in my mouth. Borderlands 2 comes out on the PS4, whatever it came out on, and it was free for like PlayStation Plus or something like that. So a friend was like, "Let's play it." Zach's brother actually again, and he wanted to run us through it. And he played it so much that he got so far ahead to the point where the other like two of us that were playing with him were so far behind that it just was like, well, we can't catch up, and nobody's here to play it with us. So I just stopped playing the series as a whole.
That's
yeah.
funny.
So that's why when I played with Chris, I was like, dude, you gotta play as a new character. I was like, we can't, like, this is not. You're killing everything before I have a shot at it. So he would just start a new character.
Yeah.
Hey, I
No, so
obliged, okay?
you did. You still knew how to, like, you still knew what to do with everything, which was, just bigger explosions. But um, yeah,
I
yeah,
am a fan of explosions.
uh,
I just want to say one more thing. Sorry.
yeah,
Um, that's exactly what happened with me because when I actually delved into it, I was mainly solo and I was the highest level you can be. And whenever anybody's want to play, like Johnny, like you're killing everything. Like, all right, I'll start another character. So it was between Brick and Roland, and then I was always the tank in all the Borderlands games. So it was either Brick and then the Gunzerker Salvador and two. In pre-sequel, I was Claptrap for some odd reason. I just loved it because he was just so fucking wild. But yeah, that's all I want to say.
gotcha. Well, I think it's time for me. I have something I was going to bring up. The Switch possibly has a game coming. Nintendo sent out a survey to people, and that survey was something to the effect of, "Would you pay $50 for a new WarioWare game?" And I wasn't sent this survey, but had I been sent, I would have said yes. Yes, I would. Because one of my favorite games on the Wii is WarioWare Smooth Moves. Um, it's basically
Lots of good times.
yeah, Crisco. I spent a lot of time on that game with you. It's basically a bunch of quick mini games. It's a very, I would say, um, oversimplification of it because uh, there's a lot of little nuance between each little mini game. But when I think about possibly what the Joy Cons could do, uh, and or what they could provide for new mini games, like you look at Labo and all the little like creative things that Nintendo came up with. My gosh, those Joy Cons are just made for WarioWare.
Mm.
He's not on, but for those who don't know, Rye Guy, he owns every Wario game. So there is a cult following. There's someone on Twitter I follow that they just exclusively tweet about Wario, and I saw them talk about Jimmy, the character Jimmy from WarioWare, and like they just kept coming up with scenarios about Jimmy, but it was like fitting him into other games, like where he doesn't belong. I just thought it was hilarious. So there's a cult following there. It's the Switch, so it'll sell 1 million copies. I'm 100% for it. I obviously know Chris is. Another fun thing about WarioWare, it can make for a very fun drinking game
Oh,
for
every time.
those of you who are adults. So Any of you guys played a WarioWare game outside of Crisco?
Yeah, the one on Wii. And the one on which one was on GameCube?
Shit, no, not Shit Kid. We
That
need Rag Eye.
That was so that one was on the kiosk at Toys R Us when I worked in the art zone.
Oh
So
wow.
when I was just kicking around, waiting for the store to close, at 8 o'clock at night on a Saturday or whatever the hell it was, I just kick around. It was either that or Donkey Konga. Those two games were in that damn kiosk forever.
Nice.
Steve actually said something. He asked online multiplayer, and while I would be 100% for it, I don't know. I don't have a whole lot of confidence in Nintendo Online anything.
Well, actually, I would think that if there's anything they could get right, it would be Wario. Yeah, hang on. Let me there we go. All right. Well, actually, I think that if there's anything they could get right, it would be a Wario game because netcode wise, it would be fairly easy to set up. I mean, the only person who needs to see things exactly in real time is the person actually executing any one of the mini games. So, as far as online games go, I think WarioWare would be one of the easier ones to make satisfying.
Okay.
And that's just thinking about it from a larger technical perspective. I think it would be not simple, but a lot easier than something like, say, Smash that pisses us all off.
You could just run like two asynchronous sets of instances with the same games lined up, and then just keep track between the two people. Be the simplest way of doing it.
So I guess my final question about this to all of you is Nintendo sent out that question. Would you guys buy a WarioWare on the Switch for $50?
They didn't ask. They didn't ask me, so fuck them.
Okay. No, he wants Mario Golf. X.
I'll say yeah, because I never really got a chance to delve into any WarioWare, and seeing other people play it is kind of like one of the craziness that I want to experience.
Fun. It's a lot of fun.
A lot of fun.
I already know Chris's answer. Wolf, did you have any experience with WarioWare?
So I've never played a Wario game before. I think I'm probably the baby of this call, being the youngest one here, I'm assuming. So
that seems like a safe bet.
So I've never played a Wario game. I've never played what type of game is Wario games anyways? Is it like a Mario Party, I'm assuming?
So think about Mario Party, except without all the board game aspects.
Okay.
You literally just it's like the mini games, only they're limited to about 5 or 6 seconds each.
And you don't know what's happening until you see it. So like it'll show a screen and it'll say catch, right? It'll be catch with an exclamation mark across. And you have a ball, like a hand with a cup, and then they'll have a ball somewhere, and then they'll drop the ball, and you gotta catch the ball. But it happens in like 3 seconds total. Yeah, it's
this whole process is very quick, and it will just ricochet from one game to another with very little transition time. Your transition is that screen that says catch.
Okay.
And then you're there. So it's a game that's basically just chaos incarnate, and it's tons of fun.
So, without ever playing one, since I've never played one of those, I'm very, I guess when you could say sheltered when it comes to Mario games even. I've never played a Mario game really. Never played a Mario Party. I'm kind of not like, my first Nintendo system that I owned that I played stuff on was the GameCube, but I didn't really even play Nintendo games besides Smash. So it was like that and Godzilla. That's all I really ever played on it. So like I'm always been more of an Xbox person, and I guess Sony in a way. So a lot of Nintendo stuff has always slipped by unless it's Pokemon. But that's because it's handheld, so I could get that easy. So like looking at a $50 game that I've never played, I wouldn't jump into it unless I seen reviews on it. But then again, though, I just don't really buy a lot of Nintendo stuff anyways, even having the Switch. So the stuff I've bought has sat still in its wrapper. I still haven't opened Astral Chain. I have Fire Emblem Three Houses, still haven't opened it and played it. I have Mario, I think Odyssey, still haven't played it. So it's like all these games just sit there. I get them, spend their Nintendo crazy price that never drops, and then I just don't play them.
All right, so Wolf, I have to ask. You're an Xbox guy. You were an Xbox kid. Did you
Yeah.
play? Did you play? I just hit puberty. Did you play Fusion Frenzy?
No.
What?
Oh,
No.
no,
Oh.
you gotta play Fusion Frenzy.
It
You
was
gotta play.
only Halo. That was it.
Oh
It was,
man,
I was introduced, so I didn't get an Xbox.
I have a
in
feeling Halo was retro for you, wasn't it?
Halo 1. Yeah, because Halo 1 came out in what, 2000, 2001?
Ish, yeah.
So I would have been like 7 or 8 then.
Oof.
nice.
I'm only 26. So
Jesus Christ! I forgot you're so
Whoa.
you're young.
yeah. So
Hang on a second, I gotta go grab my cane.
I only played Halo 1 at a friend's house on his Xbox. Halo 2 was probably one that I played at his house as well, a little bit like around the time of coming out. And then I didn't get my original Xbox until probably like a year or two before, maybe a year before the 360 came out.
Wow.
So I only had it for a limited time. Only things I ever played on it, Halo 1, Halo 2, and like Marvel Nemesis Rise of the Emperor. It's that weird old kind of bad Marvel fighting game. So maybe Forza, like one of the original Forzas, and that was like it. I only had like 6 games for the Xbox. So my main gaming stuff came from either Game Boy Advance, which was just Pokemon, PlayStation 2, or 360.
Okay.
Kid.
Well,
You should play Three Houses. It's amazing.
You should.
I've been wanting to.
Just
I've
do
always
it.
been
Well,
interested.
you own it,
Fire
and you presumably own a Switch to go with it. So just
Yeah, it collects dust.
cartridge and game case, and like.
It's the best
Man.
It's the best Fire Emblem, and if anyone tells you otherwise, they're fucking lying.
well,
We had
here.
a discussion about this offline.
So with that being said, we just gave Wolf a little bit of just education around Wario, Fusion Frenzy, but there's a game and a franchise I never actually delved into at all that I know Wolf really enjoys, and that's Ark. So Wolf, why don't you tell us about Ark and I don't know what you do in that?
So I had originally intended on making this be. They just dropped their newest and final paid DLC, as far as we're aware, with the game. This company, it's named Wildcard. They've been controversial with the community. They got a great community manager, and they're pretty open and upfront with a lot of things. But I had intended on making this more of a review, talking about it, discussing the DLC. Well, they are a company full of delays. This DLC was supposed to be out in December last year. They pushed it to March. They pushed it to May. Then they pushed it to the beginning of June. And then it still didn't hit its beginning of June release day and came out. And then they said it was supposed to come out 7 in the morning yesterday. It didn't come out until like 3 in the afternoon. So I only got a very small handle of this game yesterday while also trying to record a YouTube Let's Play for it. So I'm taking things slow, played for like an hour, did video editing, played for like another hour, more video editing. So it's like I've hardly touched it. But this game is I mean it's a survival game. Basic building. If you've seen Rust, it's Rust with dinosaurs. It could be kind of referred to as non-blocky dinosaur Minecraft as well, in a way, I guess you could call it. But it's a super fun game. It's got a ton of content. They've released an initial first map. They had 3 DLCs, and then they're like, we're done with paid DLC. Like, hey, there's more. People still want this game because they tried making another survival game that didn't do well. So they went back dark and kind of like we're like, okay, we're coming back. We're sorry. And then this company is also very good with their community. They have a Steam workshop. They let mods go through. They've made I think 4 or 5 mod-made community maps as official, and they've released on Xbox, PlayStation for everyone to play. And they're kind of people's most loved maps are the community-made ones a lot of the time. But so far the DLCs really good. This map is insane. It's ridiculously massive. Um, it's kind of like the perfect farewell to the game, even though it's not a farewell to the game, because they're planning on doing it in Arc 2, which was supposed to be for next year, but there's no way they hit that deadline. So it's probably gonna be like 2023, 2024. But that game's gonna have, I guess, Vin Diesel as the main character.
The Diesel Diesel
Yeah,
arc.
Diesel versus dinosaurs. Apparently, he's a big Arc player that
Oh.
they've come out and said. So he loves the game, plays it in his spare time, and I guess he liked it so much that they're like, hey, one of our lore characters, because there is a storyline to the game. It's not just a mindless survival game. Granted, a lot of the people don't ever touch the story because it's a lot of gatekeeping to kind of get there, since you got to know what you're doing in the game and fight the big hard boss fights and stuff like that, and do all the stuff and play all the maps. But he was a big Arc player, I guess. So one of the characters that they set up in the lore is who he's gonna be. They just made him look like him, which was kind of insane. But that will probably be until like 2 or 3 years from now, knowing them. But I guess it kind of has a question for everybody, like with games and their delays. Like, do you think it's, if you know there's gonna be a delay, do you think it's better to be upfront about it and push it back until it's ready, or just keep setting dates and just not hitting the dates?
I've come. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Pat.
But I guess, like, would it be better to just not even give a date and be like, it's underway, just give development updates, but just not like, if you can't hit the first date, why give a second date if you can't hit the second date too? What would be better?
You got it, John. Go ahead.
Well, it's not a direct answer that you set up for me. But I've really, as much as Nintendo irritates me, I've actually, I don't know, I feel spoiled by this, but kind of like their approach lately. They announce it when there's like a month or two away from it. They're like, hey, just so you know, this is coming out in next month or in 2
Metroid
months.
Prime
You can have
4.
it. But to be fair, there was already expectations on that, and I think that announcement was to temper the expectations. But Mario Golf, that's what they did.
Yeah, the fact that they waited on Mario Golf, I bet you they were so close to being done on that game that it was either like ready to go to print, like it was ready to go gold, or they were just in like the bug fixing part of it. Like none of the footage that we've seen has been new since the reveal, like, and any trailers. So like they've got that game ready to go. They have the whole time. They did that with Fallout 4 as well, and I thought that was really good.
Yeah.
Back when Fallout 4 was announced, it was like, so it was announced in what, June for E3?
Yeah, I
And then
think
it
so.
came out in September or October, back when we were doing Ye Old podcast.
Yeah.
That's the way to go. That really is.
I want to say even I don't even remember that Fallout 76 did the same thing, even though that wasn't as good, but it's still, they're like, hey, it's coming, then everyone's like, whoa, this is the thing, and then it came out like 3 months later and hit its date.
You don't run into the situation with like Starfield where people ask about it for 3-4 years in a row, like when's Starfield coming out? Like,
yeah.
personally, I don't know that I care. Personally, I don't know that I care anymore anyway. But like, you're setting yourself up to disappoint so many people when you do that. Like Nintendo,
Elder Scrolls 6 is the same way.
yeah, it's the same thing with Elder Scrolls 6. Like, you're setting a lot of people up just to be disappointed constantly. Like, just when you know it's coming out. Same thing with Cyberpunk. They hyped that game up for years, and it fell on its face.
I love that it's been long enough since Duke Nukem Forever
Oh,
that we're using other games for this example now.
God. That whole debacle was all.
But I definitely remember Duke Nukem Forever. I remember when John and I sat down and watched the E3 where they formally announced that Duke Nukem Forever was coming. And that was, what was that, like 2012? After people looking for it since the late 90s.
Yeah.
That shit's so old. It was announced at a CES in the 90s, probably.
Yeah.
But more importantly, we've addressed a couple of answers to this question without getting to the most fun one, which is the Bethesda answer. Just release it whenever you feel like it, even if it's not ready, and let people enjoy the bugs and things that come out of it.
Excuse me, those are features. They're not bugs.
That's how I mean
Sorry.
I'll say that's typically been Wildcard's release schedule with their DLCs. So they've released 5 company-made maps now, and all of them have released with some sort of crazy bug, game-breaking thing. But it still doesn't stop the hardcore PvP players because this game's PvP and PvE. They have 2 different servers where you're split, and the hardcore PvP players, they're the ones that like play this 24 hours. Like they'll be the ones that flood servers with an entire tribe of people, and they'll lock something down because they don't want their base getting destroyed and stuff like that. And there's massive server wars, and but like all their DLCs, they'll just be like, okay, well it's out, and it comes out with bugs, doesn't meet its date, but people still love it. So I'll give this game too. The community managers have gotten so much flack for this DLC. Like they have been screamed at for the past like past like 2-3 days now because they're like, oh well, how didn't you know you've done this several times now? How didn't you hit the state? And I see how it's hard to do, especially when they're trying to release it simultaneously on Epic, Steam, PlayStation, and Xbox for one DLC. That doesn't have
Yeah, I can
crossplay,
see
by
how
the way.
that would present challenges.
There's no crossplay either, so I don't know why they did the simultaneous release. Doesn't really make sense. They could have just released it on the systems when it was ready, but
It's those damn console players holding it up for the PC guys, man.
here's the
It
funny
always
thing.
is.
The PC version got it last because they ran into a network error on Steam.
PC Master Race.
Xbox
Rookie mistake.
Apparently Xbox got it first this time around with a pre-download before the downloads were even up somehow for some people. Then Sony people had it for a long time. And it's kind of funny because Arc 2 isn't even going to be out on PlayStation at launch. They've already said it's going to be a Microsoft and PC exclusive for limited time at least. Sony, from what I've seen, Sony's been really hard to work with, possibly for them, maybe. I think they wanted to introduce crossplay before, and I think Sony probably was like, no. Because they seem to like crossplay. There is crossplay between Epic and Steam with the game, as long as you're not using mods, because there's no mod support on Epic. So, but you can still play. And Xbox for Windows players can play with Xbox players, so there is that crossplay between PC and Xbox too.
That's got to be so weird that like having like that weird cross-platform between PC and only one version of the PC goes to the other one or whatever. Like it's, I don't like it.
Well,
This game, mods do make it sometimes. So if you're playing unofficially or in single player, the mods can elevate. It's the same thing with Minecraft. If you play Minecraft on PC, that's not the Windows version. If you're playing Java, like those games do get heavily affected by it, and they could sometimes add life to a game that should have died years ago.
That's Skyrim on PC right there.
Yep.
I mean, I put so many hours in. I don't want to admit how many hours it is because of mods on PC.
But I'll say some cool things about the Genesis. The name of the DLC is Genesis Part 2 because the first one was Genesis Part 1. They added in this crazy like mech into the game. Like the game was originally primitive. So it was supposed to be like bow and arrows, spears, swords, stuff like that, basic stuff. Eventually they added tech into the game. Tech is pretty much just future stuff. Like there's a Iron Man suit in a way almost. But they added in this crazy mech suit that gives you an RTS view of the game where it shoots a camera up in the sky, and you could totally you could draw a square over all your dinosaurs, creatures, because they're not all dinosaurs. Some of them are actually animals. But you draw a square around all your creatures. You could command them anywhere in like a radius with this moving camera that you could just sit inside your little fancy mech and be safe. So there's some crazy things. They have a weird space dolphin that turns into like a Star Fox like ship. That's kind of cool.
Sure.
Okay.
Doesn't make sense, but it's cool.
Like Echo the Dolphin in the Star Fox.
I never played a Star Fox game, so I couldn't answer that. But it's like the ship. It's like the starship. You know, it's an X-wing. There
It's
you go.
interesting that you said you've never played a Star Fox game.
Well,
Have you played an Echo game?
No.
Have you
Okay.
heard of it? Have you heard of it? Well, I don't want to do this to him. I don't want to. I have to do it to him.
Leave him
Come
be.
on now. Come on.
But it's like it turns into just like a spaceship in a sense. You take this crazy space dolphin, you put pretty much a jet tech saddle on it, and then it becomes crazy starship dolphin.
Sure.
I just feel like if I played Ark, eventually I'll just get mad, and here's why. It's just gonna make me question where the hell's Dino Crisis? It's time. It's time to bring it back.
What?
Dino Crisis.
Yeah. What?
Dino Crisis. It's
It's like-
time.
You're
It's
barking.
time to bring it back.
You're barking the
Listen.
wrong
We need-
tree. Because the thing is, like, the same thing with that is the same thing with Turok. Like, you can't.
They tried. No, they tried to
They
bring.
tried Turok, but
They
they
did.
didn't.
But man, look, you bring Dino
Did
Crisis.
they even call it like Turok Revived or something like that?
And it definitely wasn't. It was more like Turok Flatline.
Parasite Eve's got a better chance of coming back than Dino Crisis, bro.
I mean, yeah, but that doesn't change my answer. So I think I'd like to close out with one last piece of news that was going around Twitter. All these leaks that were happening. Today was supposed to be the day that we saw the Switch Pro revealed. There's someone on Twitter that goes by Licky Panda. They said, it's going to happen. And then there's some other people saying, oh, just you wait. Pay attention tomorrow. Tomorrow came. Tomorrow is now today. Nothing. Nothing.
When will Zen be now?
The storm is coming.
Don't do it. Don't do it. But with that being said, I'll part with one question to you guys. Do you think we'll see the Switch Pro before E3? Do you guys think that? Johnny, you go ahead.
Honestly, no, because I think they're basically having this slot and specifically like, hey, we're gonna talk about this and show it off and be like, oh yeah, pre-orders go up now, so go on there. So they're gonna designate that time so people can actually get their shit together. But anytime before that, it's all just a rumor like it was today.
There'll be
Alright.
no shit gotten together. This is a console release.
Yeah, it's gonna be a nightmare for
Say
everybody.
Nintendo console
Yeah.
release.
Yeah, no shit gotten together at all. It's gonna be like the original Wii release, or not Wii, original Switch release. It's gonna be a nightmare, especially if it releases off of announcement.
It'll be just a trebuchet of shit.
Hey, I got my Switch off
WarioWare.
Amazon day one. I don't know what happened to you guys.
I
I
actually
got
waited
my Switch on
a
day
year.
one.
Waited a year. I stood in line for a week for like 12 hours.
Madman.
And
Didn't we
I
stand in line for about that long for the Switch showcase event? We were there for a while.
I just got my Switch last year as a Christmas
Wasn't-
present.
I was in Florida for that announcement. I remember sitting at my desk at the apartment in Florida going, I gotta get online now, and I got my pre-order in.
So that's part of it, right? That's why everyone's paying super close attention to it. It's because we're worried that what happened with the PS5 would happen with the Xbox. They're just going to drop it, and the pre-orders are just going to go open, and you're not going to be able to get one because scalpers.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's coming. Like, I mean, it's gonna be the same problem with like the other consoles. Just for even if there is stock, people are gonna fear it, and then you got the people that want to make the money off it that are just gonna buy up as much as they can. So it's gonna cause the shortage that shouldn't be a shortage.
There's
A lot of
there's
that
one
going
possi-
around lately.
there's one possible saving grace to that situation, and that's if Nintendo doesn't release all of its stock to companies that are only going to do stuff online.
Yeah.
So like Target's starting to put Series
Yeah.
S's into stores. There are a couple other like store line or chains that are putting consoles into stores instead of putting them all online. I think we might see more of that because of COVID, kind of the whole release of restrictions from COVID. That's like the only saving grace that we might get.
Yeah, because I was saying like that's how I got my system is from Target specifically, and it will work out so much better if either they have store pickup for a store or actually going to the store and buying it outright. Online is just gonna have a shit show.
A bot can't walk into a store and buy 10 consoles.
No, no.
Right.
Especially if they like actually limit you in the store to one per either person or one per group.
Right.
Which,
They'll do one per person. That was like the standard, like for any
Yeah.
console release back in the day.
and
Like,
it should
yep.
be. Like, there's
Yeah.
no reason you should need like 3 Switch Pros in one household, especially if you all live there and already have multiple Switches. Like, you don't need that on day one.
Listen, you want
Right.
to scalp a system, you got to find 2 buddies to go with you to
Yeah.
buy it behind you in line so that you can scalp them. Not this nonsense where you pay $20 for someone to write a bot for you. That's
Yeah.
Bush League. That's Bush League, and you know it.
It is just amateur hour for sure. I remember back in the 360 launch days, people still camped out. I mean, I saw literally a dude with 3 or 4 of his children sitting outside Best Buy with me. So that they were probably teenagers, but he had them all buy one, and I'm 100% certain he went home and scalped every single one of them.
Sure.
But
Yeah, he didn't get 20 of them though.
right back
Not
in
the-
the day, the point
man
is
party Halo.
people used to earn it.
Yeah, you used to have to wait outside in the cold. You get the tent, you get the
Like I
little
don't,
folding
I don't
chair.
respect scalpers regardless. Don't get me wrong. But
But
I
it was-
respect the guys who actually tried for it before. A
But it was
little bit
fun
more
to see
than
him freeze, almost to death.
Right.
Suckers.
I think that's a perfect way to end this.
Suckers.
So we're sans Ryan, so I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna try to do it in one of my voices, in the spirit of Ryan. And so let's see if I can get one going. Oh, Peter, it's dangerous to go alone. Take this podcast with you. Good night, everybody.
Good night, guys.